folks, it's Almal'S again with Outdoor Adventures and Survival, and I want to take a few minutes and show you my version of a fishing kit. And there's a lot of varieties out there. I've seen these made with wooden tubes, plastic tubes, aluminum, a lot of different variations. I keep mine wrapped up in an old sock. It helps keep everything quiet, helps keep the fishing line protected from abrasions while it's in my pack. And inside that, my fishing kit is really just a sprinkler head. An automatic sprinkler head is what this is. You can purchase this at your local Lowe's or Home Depot for around $5. And what I did was took the cap off and I took out all the internal components, the spring, everything, and discarded those things. And then with the cap, I left a hole in the end. So I put a little piece of plastic that I had, I cut in a round shape and popped it in there, and it's just held in there with tension under the threads of the cap. I also drilled a small hole on this side and put a hand strap, threaded that through there. On the other end, where the water inlet would have been to the sprinkler, I bought a 39-cent plug and threaded that right in to close up that hole. On the outside of the tube, and it's very smooth plastic as you can see, on the outside I have probably about 100 yards of 6-pound test monofilament. I use Stren, like Stren, always have. And 6-pound test for me is a very versatile line. I can catch trout, I can catch panfish, crappie, bluegill, bass, even catfish with 6-pound line. In my mind, it's probably one of the most versatile lines that you can get. So this unit right here, it becomes the actual reel, if you will, that you would cast from. I have a little piece of tape to hold the line on there. But you know, another opportunity I get, I can actually show you how this works. But inside there, everything inside is wrapped up in this netting. And this netting is really nothing more than an old bait net that I had. Set that off to the side here. And this old bait net had a metal frame and a wooden handle. I cut all that away and took the frame out. So what I'm left with is just the actual netting itself. Virtually no weight to this at all. But there's a lot of things you can do with this. In addition to cutting a small sapling and winding it through, threading it through the opening, leave a little bit to stick out on the end, tie that up with a piece of string, and I've got myself another little primitive net that I can carry. I can catch small fish with that, sure, but one thing I can really do is catch bait. Catch bait to catch larger fish. And one thing we have a lot of here in Arizona, in a lot of the streams that I frequent, is crayfish. And so you can make a meal out of those perhaps, but you can also use them as bait to catch larger fish. And this works pretty well to help you catch those. I can also use it in a gathering situation if I'm out gathering some wild edibles, berries, wild mushrooms, something of that sort. I can use it to carry things back to camp as well. So a lot of good uses for a piece of netting. Now inside that I have a smaller vial, and this tube has 2-pound test wrapped around it. Probably about 50 yards of 2-pound test. And the reason I carry some additional 2-pound test here in Arizona is we have a lot of crystal clear spring-fed waters. And when you're in the really clear water and you're fishing for smaller fish, you know, and again, in a survival situation, I'm going to carry the lightest line I possibly can to give me an advantage over catching those fish. So 2-pound test is what I go with here. Now I wouldn't actually cast from this device, although I probably could. Most of those streams are very small, so I would use a pole or a limb line, and I would just cut off maybe 10 or 12 feet of this 2-pound test and use that as a pole line. Now inside the tube, got a couple things. Smaller tube and some additional things. Now, this is what I carry in my kit. Again, if I were stranded anywhere and I could only have one lure, one artificial lure, I would probably pick a jig. And the reason I say that is, to me, it's the most versatile lure that there is. And with a jig, like this one, this can be fished slow, it can be fished with a fast retrieve. It can be fished shallow, it can be fished deep. It can be fished with a steady retrieve, it can be fished with an alternating retrieve. And a marabou jig like this is sure very effective for tempting a lot of different types of fish. But to me, it's the most versatile lure. I can imitate a lot of different things using a jig like this. So I carry 2 of those, darker colors. Again, around here, I'm going to try to imitate a leech or a crayfish with these. Now, I also carry a couple smaller ones in the same kind of color patterns for, again, smaller fish. And then I also carry lighter colors. Now these are going to imitate more of a bait fish pattern, pearlescent and a white color as well. In addition to that, spinners. Perhaps the second most versatile lure that you have out there is a spinner. And these are rooster tail spinners. Okay, 16th, one's a 16th ounce, one's an 1/8 ounce. And again, with the gold blade, that's my favorite. A lot of fish. These have treble hooks on them. You can catch a lot of fish with these. I do carry 1 float in case I need to suspend my bait off the bottom. And then in this tube, I carry a variety, and I'm not going to dump them all out, a variety of hooks and sinkers. Treble hooks, single hooks, small ones, larger ones. There's a variety in there, and sinkers of different weights. Now, the one thing I do want to show you that I carry in there is an eyelet. It's an eye hook, and I've actually bent it at an angle. I don't know if it's a 45-degree angle, but I've bent it. And I'll use this if I'm making a pole, say out of a sapling or a tree branch, and I'm going to take, maybe 10 or 12 feet of this and make a pole line. What I'll actually do is I'll take this eyelet and I'll attach it to the end of my pole, if you will, once I've shaved the stick down of any sharp edges, knots, that sort of thing, and I'll mount this with some wire. Just picture hanging wire, and I'll wrap that around, and the threads on the eyelet will dig into the wood, and the threads on the eyelet will also catch the wire, and I'll take a 12-inch piece, maybe 8-inch piece, and wrap that around there real tight, and that will hold on there really good. And then I thread my line through there instead of tying it directly to the stick, so there's less abrasion on the line. And then in situations where I need more than a pole's length of line, I can actually gather some extra line at the end, and I can use that to more or less flip the bait out a little further, and this will allow the line to pass through versus being tied to the end of the pole. So I carry a couple of those, and I've actually used those before. They work really, really well. All right, so again, you may have some different favorite lures that you like to carry, but this whole thing, this old net cost me nothing. This cost $5. the contents, the couple of jigs and hooks and weights in here, less than $10. So the whole thing, you've got about $15 in an emergency fishing kit. So it's well worth carrying because again, if you find yourself in a situation where you need a hot meal and you've got a body of water around, with the contents of this and a little luck and scavenging some bait, you can catch yourself a good hot meal.